Hey guys, how's it going? It's me with another tutorial for you. Thanks so much for the comments that I received via social media on the other video. That was great, and it was really cool to hear all of your ideas and get your feedback. So yeah, so keep it coming. Today I'm going to teach you how to fix color cast issues in your photos. I know this is quite a big issue in food photography, and I've heard a lot of people, having these issues where your photos have this weird color cast on them. It's either too yellow, too blue, too magenta. And sometimes, it's super frustrating because you're moving sliders up and down and you don't know where to start. So I'm gonna teach you today how to fix that using the color wheel, which is quite simple and easy to do. So let's get started. First of all, this is a finished image that I sent to West Elm. This is a kombucha cocktail with a little bit of sage. It was quite tasty. And then, the image is really vibrant and fresh. You can see this. It kind of feels like it's hot. But this was the original. So as you can see, this was really blue and dull, and it had a blue overcast over it, and that's the final. So there is quite a huge difference between the two of them, just in terms of color, right, and vibrancy. And I fixed that using the color wheel. The issue with this image, let's go back to the original. Well, I'm gonna delete that one. The issue that happened here was that, I had a background that was blue. So then when actually it was turquoise. So when I took a photo of that turquoise background, the light on it bounced and then it just like spilled everywhere into my image, right? Onto the drinks and the plants and everything. So that's why everything just looks blue, especially the shadows. That's what I kind of want to fix the most a little bit. Well, everything in general, but I feel just these tones over here, they're really gross. They're very muddy, right? So how do we fix that? Okay, well, first of all, we're gonna use the color wheel. And don't worry, we're not gonna go too crazy into it. But the color wheel is gonna help us choose the colors that we need to use to fix our issues. So you're gonna come in here. So don't worry, I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna put this link onto the description of the video. I use this link, which is free, and it's a color calculator. It's on sessions.edu/color calculator. And basically, for those of you who haven't seen a color wheel, you're like, what is all this crazy stuff? Don't worry, we're just gonna focus today on one thing, which is one color harmony of complementary colors. And that's basically, you're gonna choose one color and then you're gonna work with the opposite end of that color. Again, don't get too confused. I'm gonna show you how this works, but I wanted to show you our main tool for this tutorial. So let's go back here onto our image in Photoshop. So again, the issue is that this is too blue. So let's get started. Let's create a new layer over here. And then to know which color is creating all this mess, go here and click on your color picker, and then using the eyedrop tool, go ahead and choose a color that is a little bit of in between the tones that you have in your image that, they're more prominent. In this case, again, is the blue or the turquoise. Well, it's more like a blue now. You don't want to choose the lightest color or the darkest color because that's gonna kind of affect your settings. You want to choose something in between so that you kind of get the whole range of color fixed, rather than just one tone in general. Okay, so saying that, let's say we want to fix a little bit of the blue. That's too dark, so maybe let's click on something like that and move it over here. Yeah, so that looks a little bit in between this super light blue and this really dark blue, right? You don't have to be super precise, but it's just, a good estimate. So I would say that's a good pick. Now, this is where the magic starts. So go in here, and then at the bottom of your color picker, you're gonna have this window with the color settings, the color value actually. So grab that color value and copy it using Command C on Apple, or in Windows, I think is Control C. So go ahead and copy that. You're okay, just close that window there. Come into this, your color calculator, and paste that value in here, right there. Make sure you leave the hashtag on it because that's gonna be That's going to help you with the value. And then kind of click on it so it activates. So yeah, paste it, click on it, and it will activate. And then your color is right here. Now, from these color harmonies, don't look at anything else other than the complementary. So click on complementary, and it's going to give you a value on the opposite end of the color that you chose. So it's this kind of peachy orangey color, right? So if you had, just to show you a different setting, if your image was too green, because you were taking the photo maybe a picnic outside in the grass, so then there's going to be a lot of green spilling onto your image. So then maybe then it's going to be something like that, right? This is going to be the color that you chose, meaning you're gonna have to work with the opposite end, which is kind of like a peachy reddish color. Sorry, pinky reddish color, and that's what you're gonna have to work with. But let's go back to our settings here of what we had there, and then that. So in this case, we're gonna use this peachy color, and you're like, well, okay, but what do you mean I'm gonna use this color to fix the issue? Okay, so I'll show you what I mean. So memorize this color. You don't need to think of this value, but just kind of memorize this color and then go back into Photoshop. Now, on the layer copy that you created, go ahead and open Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And come on, computer. Okay, there we go. Now, in this area here, this is like your Camera Raw Filter within Photoshop. You're gonna go ahead and click on this setting, which is split toning. And split toning, is gonna help you change the values of the highlights and the shadows individually, which is kind of super helpful. You could do this also with like curves adjustments or other adjustments, but I find that a little bit too complicated because you have to be moving curves and kind of guessing. This kind of takes the guess out of that equation. So yeah, so then in here you can choose the color individually for highlights or for shadows, and also the intensity with the saturation slider. So what was the color that we were going to use? So it was this orangey peachy color. Okay, so let's go back in here. So in this case, like I said, I want to kind of fix not so much the highlights on the image, but more of the undertones, which will be like the shadows and the darker-ish tones, right? Darker-ish tones. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the shadow slider. And as we said, we're gonna choose a little bit of a peachy yellow tone. Now, if you're moving this around, you're like, okay, but is that a peachy yellow tone? I don't know. There's a little trick here to see which color you are applying to your image. And to see the color that you're applying, press and hold the Option key or Alt in Windows, I believe. So press and hold Option and then move the slider. And then all of a sudden, you're gonna see the color that this shadows adjustment is applying to your image. So I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, so then we said like a peachy yellow color, so let's leave it there. Again, this color here doesn't mean that is exactly the color that you're gonna use, but it's just to set you in the right direction, because now you know where you can start to fix your image. So it's in that little range there, okay? Now you're gonna add that color into the image by moving this slider of the saturation here. And you can see it's changing. So you see here, if you look at it, it's changing the color and it's adding more of that peachy yellow and it's getting rid of those weird colors. It's looking a little bit too red, so I'm gonna move it towards the yellow a little bit more there. Yeah, that's better. And let's see the before and after so you see the difference. So as you can see, just with this adjustment, it already fixed quite a bit of that overcast here and the colors in general, see? By adding some of this yellow over here. But let's refine it more. And to do that, we're gonna use this balance tool. Basically, the balance tool is gonna allow you to either add none of that adjustment that you just had or a ton of it, which is kind of gross in this case. So let's do it maybe about there. How's that? That's looking good. That's not bad. That's pretty good because this is too yellow and we want to keep it a little bit blue still. So maybe let's do 35 as well. Okay. Just last question here. Just in case, like, could you do the same with the highlights? Yes. So let's just kind of like put this in zeros. You could also do the same with highlights. If you press again the Option key and leave it and hold it and move around the slider, you can see how this changes the highlights. So you could also try using the highlights to fix it, right? So in this case, it's changing the highlights. But as you can see, it's not having so much effect on our image like the shadows over here. So let's just use the shadows instead. So let's put it back at where it was, 35, like that. Yeah, that's looking good. And then it was like over here, 35. Perfect. Something like that. Okay, now let's go add a little bit more brightness to this because it's looking a little bit too dark. I just want to make it pop a little bit more. Maybe, yeah, hold on. So just adding a little more brightness, making it pop is going to help you also get accurate colors. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's see the before and after. Yeah, look at the difference on that. That already looks really nice. But there is one last issue on this image. And the issue is like, over here you can see a little bit of that turquoise color that I said the background was. But here you cannot see it as much. The image in general is still looking a little bit too blue, too teal. So just doing a quick Google search, which I did here, of turquoise versus teal, you can see the difference. Turquoise, which was the color of my background, is a little bit more green, actually, and teal is more of a darker, sort of muddier blue, right? So I don't want that. I want to make it more of this color. So how do we do that? So let's go back to our color wheel, and basically, oh, it's here, on our color wheel here. So in our color wheel, we have this color, which is the color that we have right now, right? Which is kind of like a teal. And we want to make it more turquoise, which is over on this side, like that. So what just happened here? We went from a blue to a more green. And how do we translate that? Well, that means that we need to add more green onto our image to make it more turquoise, right? Again, if the example was different, that, your image is too red, and you want to make it more yellow so it's warmer, then you're like, well, but the background was more of an orange color, not so much of a cherry color. So then you will need to add more yellow to it, right? So, but again, let's go back to our case, which was like we had this teal color and we want to make it more turquoise, meaning we have to add more green. So in here, because we already used our tool here to add the shadows to make them a little bit more of that peachy yellow, we cannot add, unfortunately, another setting on top of that. So we're going to use our white balance for that. And we are going to add more green, like we said in the color wheel. So let's add more green, and look, it just became more teal, right? Let's just see before and after. See? That's more blue, a little bit even more magenta now that I can see it, and then that's more teal, a little bit more fresh. Let's compare the before and after. And then you can see even that helped bring up the color in the leaves. Right now the leaves look nice and vibrant green, whereas before they look kind of dead. And even the color on the kombucha too is looking more like, like a bright kombucha grapefruit color, rather than in here it looks very washed out. So that's pretty much it. So let's press OK. And then now let's see how it applies to our image. See, wow, boom. Now look, it looks really nice. That's the before and that's the after. It looks really nice. You could even add a tad more of a brightness in there. Oh, no, that's too much. Maybe dark. Yeah, a little bit more punchy there. That looks nice. And then, so let's see all together. So yeah, so that's the before, blue, not so cool. Now with turquoise, lots of color. Now, one thing I wanted to show you is that I really like this layer, this filter, camera raw filter here, because you can add it onto a different layer, meaning you can control the opacity in it. So if this is too intense for you and you're like, actually that's looking a little bit too much, then you don't have to redo the whole thing. You can just go here into opacity and reduce it, and then just add as much of the adjustment that you just did, right? So maybe in this case, I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of do like some of that blue, but not too much. So again, you can adjust a little bit to it and then it will fix it. So that's about it. Once you kind of get it done and you start getting a little bit more familiar with the color wheel, you may not even use the color wheel, because now you will know what's the opposite of that color. But again, the color wheel is a really good starting point when you don't even know where to fix your photos, how to fix your photos, and which color is causing all the mess in your images, right? So hopefully these will help you with your images and make them look even tastier than I'm sure they already are. So thank you guys, and hope to see you on the next video. And yeah, like I said, send me your ideas for any other videos that you want to see. See you next time.